Will you be recapping parts of speech in this lesson to perfect your knowledge and brush up your grammar? Or will you be learning about parts of speech for the very first time? Either way, I'm very glad that you are here because parts of speech are the backbone of the English language. Without proper knowledge of the parts of speech, you will not be able to write or say coherent sentences, especially when it comes to longer and more complicated sentences. As you now know, this lesson is all about parts of speech. We will learn about 4 parts of speech today, and the last 5 in Lesson 5. At the end of the lesson, you will be able to distinguish between nouns, pronouns, verbs, and determiners. You will also know the different types of nouns, pronouns, verbs, and determiners. You will understand pronoun conventions. This will ultimately help you with your writing skills. At the end of this lesson, you will be closer to acing your IELTS writing and speaking tests. So, let's begin with our Module 1, Lesson 4, Unpacking Words, Things and Actions. Now, you may be wondering, what are parts of speech? Now, parts of speech are the categories in which we place words. We need to know these categories so that we can understand how to correctly connect words in a sentence. It's very common for people to get their grammar wrong because they don't understand the parts of speech of a specific word. The parts of speech we will learn about in this lesson are nouns, pronouns, verbs, and determiners. In the next lesson, we will learn about the rest of the parts of speech: adjectives, adverbs, prepositions, conjunctions, and interjections. Now, if you don't know the parts of speech well yet, this lesson is here to help you. If you do know the parts of speech, this lesson will be a great recap, and you will learn some of the finer details you didn't know before. All of these parts of speech are critical to achieving a good score in the IELTS tests. So I hope to see you at the next lesson too. Let's get into our first part of speech for this lesson: nouns. Nouns are people, places, ideas, and things. In most cases, identifying a noun is quite simple. If you can touch it or look at it, it's probably a noun. But sometimes it's a little more complicated than that. There are many types of nouns, and some of them can't be touched or seen. Let's go over 4 noun types. Firstly, we have the most uncomplicated type of noun, common nouns. Common nouns represent people, places, and things. Usually, you can touch or see these nouns. Some examples are dog, flower, wind, country, and kitchen. Let's use some of these in a sentence. I love to smell the flowers. I will travel to many countries. My dog likes to sit on my lap. Next, we have proper nouns. Proper nouns are the names we have for things. The first letter of a proper noun is usually a capital letter. For example, Greece. Greece is the name of a country. Another example is Samuel. Samuel is the name of a person. Any name you give a generic object, a place, a person, or an animal is a proper noun. Now, another type of noun is an abstract noun. An abstract noun represents something that exists in our minds, but you can't look at it or touch it. For example, feelings and emotions like love, happiness, sadness, and anger are all abstract nouns. Let's use one of these in a sentence. Happiness is the feeling I get when I listen to music. Other abstract nouns can also be characteristics like beauty, elegance, compassion. Let's use some of these in a sentence. I like Yashna's elegance and beauty. It's trivia time. Are these words correct? Elegances, compassions, happinesses. No, in most cases, you can't make an abstract noun into a plural. Of course, there are exceptions, but this is the usual rule. The next type of noun is a collective noun. Collective nouns represent groups, whether it be groups of people, animals, or things. For example, team, crew, family, and class. Even the word group itself is a collective noun. Now, it's trivia time again. Choose the correct word. The soccer team is or are full of great players. Even though team is a collective noun that represents many people, we see it as a single entity. So, using are in this context is incorrect. It's correct to say the soccer team is full of great players. Did you get it right, or did you just learn something new? Let Morpheus know in the chat box. You can also ask him any questions you may have at this point. Now, this next core topic is all about the next part of speech, pronouns. Pronouns are words that can stand in the place of nouns. Now, you may be thinking, why are pronouns necessary? Well, read the following sentences. This is Hannah. Hannah has many books. All these books were given to Hannah. So, Hannah bought Hannah a new backpack in which to put all the books. The blue backpack over there is Hannah's. Does it sound right? It sounds a little too repetitive, don't you think? The name Hannah is used too many times. It's only necessary to say Hannah once at the beginning. After that, pronouns need to be used instead of the name Hannah. By the end of this core topic, you will be able to fix these sentences and make them look and sound better by filling in the correct pronouns. We will cover 4 types of pronouns in this lesson. The first type of pronoun is the subject pronoun. The subject pronoun replaces the noun that is in the subject position of the sentence. the subject of the sentence is the person, place, or thing, in other words, the noun, that is doing something, experiencing something, or being something. Let's look at this sentence. Hannah has many books. In this case, Hannah is the subject of the sentence because Hannah is experiencing something. She is experiencing having many books. Since Hannah is the subject of the sentence, we can replace the name Hannah with the subject pronoun she, changing the sentence to she has many books. She is the female subject pronoun, and we use it in this case because Hannah is a woman. Other subject pronouns are I, you, we, he, they, and it. The next type of pronoun is the object pronoun. Now, the object pronoun replaces the noun that is in object position in the sentence. The object of a sentence is the noun that receives something or has something done to it. Let's look at the sentence. All these books were given to Hannah. In this sentence, Hannah received something. In this case, she received books. So, Hannah is the object of this sentence. Since Hannah is the object, we can replace the name Hannah with the object pronoun her, changing the sentence to all these books were given to her. Her is the female object pronoun, and we use it in this case because, as we mentioned before, Hannah is a woman. The other object pronouns are me, us, you, him, them, and it. Now the next type of pronoun is the reflexive pronoun. This pronoun is used to replace the object of the sentence when the subject and object of the sentence refer to the same thing. For example, we can look at this sentence. So, Hannah bought Hannah a new backpack in which to put all the books. As you can see, the subject of the sentence, Hannah, and the object of the sentence, Hannah, refer to the same thing, Hannah. Remember, we can change the first Hannah, so the one in the subject position, to the subject pronoun, she. So now the sentence is, so she bought Hannah a new backpack in which to put all the books. What about the second Hannah? Is this in the subject or object position? Object. Hannah is receiving a backpack, even though she did buy it for herself. So, therefore, the second Hannah is in the object position. Correct or incorrect? Can we replace the second Hannah in the sentence with the object pronoun and simply say, so she bought her a new backpack in which to put all the books? No, that is incorrect, because the subject and the object refer to the same thing, Hannah. Now, instead of changing the object Hannah to the object pronoun her, we have to change it to the reflexive pronoun herself. We are then left with, so she bought herself a new backpack in which to put all the books. Perfect. Now, herself is the female reflexive pronoun. Other reflexive pronouns are myself, ourselves, yourself, yourselves, himself, themselves, and itself. As you can see, the reflexive pronouns that are in plural form have VES at the end, whereas the singular ones have just an F. Now, the last type of pronoun we will learn about in this lesson is the possessive pronoun. The possessive pronoun is a pronoun that we use to show that something belongs to something or someone else. Let's look at the sentence, the blue backpack over there is Hannah's. Do you see the apostrophe S after Hannah? That's one way to show that something belongs to Hannah. In this case, it shows that the blue backpack over there belongs to Hannah. So, since it shows possession, we can use the possessive pronoun hers to replace the word Hannah's, changing the sentence to the blue backpack over there is hers. Note that there is no apostrophe in hers as there is in the word Hannah's. Now, hers is the female possessive pronoun. Other possessive pronouns are mine, ours, yours, his, theirs, and its. Now that we have learned all these pronouns, we can rewrite all the sentences from before with the correct pronouns. This is Hannah. She has many books. All these books were given to her. So she bought herself a new backpack in which to put all the books. The blue backpack over there is hers. Amazing! Now that we've added the pronouns, the sentences look and sound far better. Now that you've finished this core topic, your writing style will be more natural and less repetitive due to your correct use of pronouns. Well done! It's trivia time! Choose the correct word in this sentence. Molly and James looked at them or themselves in the mirror. It's the reflexive pronoun, themselves. Assuming that they are looking in the mirror and seeing their own reflections, it's clear that the subjects and the objects refer to the same people, Molly and James, and therefore the object takes the reflexive pronoun, themselves. Let's try another example. Choose the correct word. John bought his sister new sunglasses. She, or her, was very grateful. It's the subject pronoun, she. Why? Because in this sentence, the pronoun is in the subject position. Remember, the subject is the doer, or in this case, the experiencer. John's sister experiences gratitude. Coming part of speech that you will be learning about in this lesson is verbs. Verbs are often referred to as doing words. They are words that represent something that is being done. For example, an action. It's trivia time again. What is the verb in this sentence? I often walk to the shops. The verb is walk. Walk represents an action or something that is being done. But there are many different types of verbs, some of which don't simply represent an action. Let's go over some of them. The first type of verb is an action verb. That is the simplest type of verb, like the verb walk that we just looked at. An action verb simply refers to an action or activity. For example, catch in I catch the ball, and call in I will call you tonight. It can also represent possession. For example, have in I have a car. Another type of verb is a linking verb. Linking verbs connect the subject of a sentence to another part of the sentence, whether it be an adjective, which is something we will learn about in the next lesson, or a noun. Now, it doesn't represent an action. For example, smells in dinner smells amazing tonight. There is no action taking place. The linking verb here simply links the subject dinner to the description of the dinner. Another example is remain in dogs always remain loyal to their humans. In this case, there is again no action taking place. Remain simply links the subject dogs to the description of dogs. The next type of verb is an auxiliary verb. Auxiliary verbs can't stand alone. They need to be followed by a main verb. Now, action verbs and linking verbs that you just learned about are main verbs. Auxiliary verbs are also known as helping verbs because they help the main verb by giving it more grammatical properties. For example, they can give the sentence tense. We will learn about tense later in this module, so we won't go into too much detail about auxiliary verbs for now. But for now, here are some examples of auxiliary verbs used in a sentence. I have eaten breakfast. She is driving to her destination. In lesson 6 of this module, you will notice how these auxiliary verbs can change the tense of a sentence. So, keep an eye out for that when you get to lesson 6. There is a specific type of auxiliary verbs called modal auxiliary verbs. We can simply refer to them as modal verbs, even though they are a type of auxiliary verb. Modal verbs do more than just add grammatical meaning like tense. They add non-grammatical meaning to the sentence. For example, they can express ability, permission, or advice. Let's look at the 3 purposes of modal verbs one by one. The first purpose is giving permission. Giving permission means telling someone that they are allowed to do something. The modal verb that gives permission is may. Let's take the sentence, Sally and Janet walk to the shops. Where can we insert the modal verb here to show that permission is being given? Before the action verb, walk. Remember, the modal verb cannot stand alone and needs to be followed by a main verb. So, let's insert the permission-giving modal verb may into the sentence. Sally and Janet may walk to the shops. Now that we've added this modal verb, may, it's clear that Sally and Janet are allowed to walk to the shops. They have been given permission. The next purpose of a modal verb is expressing ability. If you have the ability to do something, it means you are capable of doing it. The modal verb that shows ability is can. Let's take the sentence from before. Sally and Janet walk to the shops, and add the modal verb can. Sally and Janet can walk to the shops. Now that we have added this modal verb, can, it's clear that Sally and Janet are able to walk to the shops, possibly because they live close enough to the shops to be able to walk there. The last purpose of a modal verb is asking for or giving advice. When you give someone advice, it means that you tell them what to do in certain situations when they need your help. We can use the modal verb should to ask for advice. Once again, let's take the sentence from before. Sally and Janet walk to the shops, and insert the modal verb should. Sally and Janet should walk to the shops. Now that we have added this modal verb should, it's clear that Sally and Janet are being given advice to walk to the shops instead of taking transport, perhaps because it's good exercise. It's trivia time again. Can you turn this sentence into a question? Sally and Janet should walk to the shops. What is this sentence in question form? Well, it's quite simple. All you need to do is move the modal verb to the front of the sentence and then add a question mark to the end of the sentence. Should Sally and Janet go to the shops? Now, the last part of speech we will be learning about today isn't really a part of speech. Determiners. Many people argue that determiners are not actually parts of speech. They are simply functions of a sentence. Now, whether or not it's a part of speech doesn't really matter. Either way, it's important to understand determiners and how to use them. Determiners are words that make nouns more specific. Determiners go before the noun. Let's look at some examples of determiners. The cat is hissing. I've watched every episode of this show. My first meal of the day is breakfast. Now, as you can see, the determiners modify the nouns and add a little more information about them. They make the nouns more specific. Now it's time to learn about the different types of determiners. The first type of determiner is an article. You are most probably already aware of articles. We have indefinite articles, a or an, and one definite article, the. Articles are used the most commonly among all determiners. They are simply used to show if you are referring to something specifically or generally. For example, if I say, I want a plant for my birthday, my use of the indefinite article a shows that there is no specific plant that I want. I want any plant. However, if I say, I want the plant for my birthday, my use of the definite article the shows that there is a specific plant that I want in particular. It's trivia time again. A and an are both indefinite articles. Do you know when to use a and when to use an? Is it an apple or a apple? Is it an banana or a banana? Well, remember vowels and consonants from lesson 2? We use a when the word that follows it starts with a consonant. We use an when the word that follows it starts with a vowel. So the correct answers are an apple, because the first letter in apple is a vowel, and a banana, because the first letter in banana is a consonant. Now the next type of determiner is an ordinal. Ordinals place things in a specific order. For example, dinner is the last meal of the day, meaning that dinner is the final meal of the day. This is the 4th lesson of my English course, meaning that this is lesson 4 of the English course. Other examples are 2nd, 3rd, 5th, next, and so on. Let's move on to the next type of determiner, numbers. You are probably already aware of numbers, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 100, 1000, and so on. When we place a number in front of a noun, it functions as a determiner because it gives specific information about the noun. For example, I have 3 children. She has been to 12 countries. The next type of determiner is a demonstrative. Demonstratives show where something is in relation to the speaker or the writer. For example, I saw that dog on the street last week. The demonstrative that shows that the dog is far away from the speaker. Next we have I saw this dog on the street last week. The demonstrative this shows that the dog is close to the speaker. If the noun is in plural form, that becomes those, and this becomes these. For example, I saw those dogs on the street last week. I saw these dogs on the street last week. The next type of determiner is a possessive adjective. An adjective is an entirely different part of speech that we will learn about in the next lesson. But a possessive adjective, which is a specific type of adjective, functions as a determiner. A possessive adjective shows that something belongs to something or someone. Some possessive adjectives are my, your, his, her, our, and their. These words should not be confused with pronouns that we learned about earlier in this lesson. Here are some of these possessive adjectives used in a sentence. That book is her book, meaning that the book belongs to her. What's your secret? Meaning that the secret belongs to you. That's their house, meaning that the house belongs to them. The last type of determiner we will learn about in this lesson is the quantifier. Quantifiers show how much or how little of the noun there is. Some examples of quantifiers are much, little, few, any, and every. Let's use some of these in a sentence. I got little sleep last night, meaning that I didn't sleep well last night. I have read every book written by her, meaning that each book that she wrote, I have read. As you can see, if you correctly use determiners, you can convey specific information about the noun in an efficient way.